Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Good evening. I have something kind of special for you today. As you can tell, it's kind of a dreary day. We're down here in Florida. I just wrapped up a big tournament. We had a wedding in G's family, so we decided to take the opportunity today, a little rest day, to film a quick video for you guys detailing my top three and his top three for cumulative 6 top baits for fishing in Florida in February. This can be applied though a lot of different areas across the country, and a lot of these baits we're talking about, we have some special modifications we're gonna do. So we're excited to take you guys along with us. And just a little backstory here. G actually grew up in Florida, at least for a good part of his life. Obviously you guys know he's super fishy, has a lot of knowledge. So looking forward to seeing what he has to share with us. So I'm gonna let him start off with his first, then we'll alternate.
I'm gonna start with what is probably not just one of my favorite baits to throw in Florida in February, but quite possibly one of my favorite baits of all time, and that is the Bill Lewis Rattle Trap. Perhaps, you know, there's a lot of people that have opinions on the best way to fish this bait in Florida, but the truth of the matter is there is not a wrong way to fish this bait. You know, you can get around grass and really try to feel out what the fish and how the fish tell you to fish it. You know, there are days where they're going to want it really fast. There are days where they're going to want it swept off the bottom. There are days where you're going to want to rip it out of the grass. But you would be surprised to know that it's not the same every day. But this is such a unique bait in the fact that you can fish it in so many different ways and really let the fish tell you how they want it.
Okay guys, so my first bait I'm going to show you all is something that I figured out from fishing the Kissimmee chain for the last few years. We've had a cold front every single year. And if y'all remember from my videos, I had a special little bait and technique that was able to catch fish when everything completely shut down. And that is, some people call it, I believe, a mojo rig. I call it a split shot rig. It's essentially like a poor man's Carolina rig. It just consists of a split shot, and the weight's gonna vary depending on how deep you're fishing. If y'all remember, I was specifically fishing this around visual patches of hay grass and Kissimmee grass. So I had the split shot about 2.5 feet above a floating worm. And this was kind of the trick, you guys, if you remember my video. You want to use a super light duty. This is a 1/0 light wire worm hook, so that gives that floating worm an ability to get up off the bottom. The weight's going to help get it down, and then I was essentially working it almost like a slow jerk bait. And this, I would cover those areas of Kissimmee grass with moving baits, with wacky stick baits. They wouldn't eat anything, but this was just getting bit. You can literally use any type of floating worm. Again, just a split shot a few feet above. Play with the length that the split shot is above the bait, but I have this rigged up for every single tournament on the Kissimmee chain and the Harris chain, and it is my bait to pick out if there's a cold front coming in.
My second favorite bait to have in Florida is actually very similar to what she just mentioned, but a little bit different. It is a new bait that actually just came out. It is the new Speed Senko from Yamamoto Baits. Why do I love this bait so much? Just like the Rattle Trap, there are so many different ways to effectively fish this bait. And one of my favorite things about it is the fact that you can actually make modifications to it. This bait comes standard with kind of a paddle style tail, right? But this bait gives you the ability to cut that paddle style tail and turn it into your typical kind of cut tail type speed worm, right? However, a third way that you can also fish this, and I've found it to be very effective, and I'll tell you why in a second, is by cutting that section off and leaving just that right there. And basically what it causes that bait to do is it causes it to glide. And there are times when that glide, the way that worm glides down, just absolutely drives fish nuts. And I guarantee you there are times where it will outfish any other way that you can fish this bait.
And I can attest to that because the way he actually figured that out, we were fun fishing down on Caddo, and he had these fish that were tearing up that worm, and he just kept fishing it as to not keep changing the worm out. And he actually was getting bit more just like that. And I didn't believe him, so I was fishing just a standard worm, and he was getting outbit probably like 5 to 1 on that. But the bass kind of told us what he wanted, and that was just kind of a neat way to kind of modify that worm. My second bait, I've had a lot of fun with this thing. I've used it quite a bit, but I'm going to specifically tell you guys about how to rig it. and that is the Berkley Gilly. So initially when I saw this bait, I thought it looked really cool, but I really was having a hard time getting the action that I wanted. So after playing around quite a bit on this thing, I learned that nose hooking it, and then especially adding this larger mushroom style nail weight, I believe these are even 1/8 ounce, so they're pretty heavy nail weights, help give this thing incredible action. So what I did with the nose hook, I just simply put a screw lock in the nose, and then I took just a simple Nico hook and screwed it into that screw lock, as you can see here. So this bait truly shines during all stages of the spawn, especially that post-spawn bite. And down here in February, there's plenty of fish that have already spawned. There are a lot of big post-spawn fish to be caught, and this thing really shines. Also, forgot to add, the 110 is my favorite size. That's the one that I feel like has the best action, and I can really get to do exactly what I want.
Finally, my third favorite bait to fish in Florida, and this is just because to me it's a very exciting bait to fish, is just basically any big boot tail type swim bait. And the way that I fish it, I kind of fish it just like you would any like top water or swimming frog, is I just swim it on the surface, and down here in Florida they cannot resist it. You will get some of the most explosive strikes that you have ever seen. I typically rig it, as you can see, with a Flippin hook. I find personally that my hookup ratio is a little bit better that way. Some may have a different opinion, but I would encourage you to at the very least try it. And another thing to keep in mind is to fish it on heavy braid. That's not only going to help you to help increase your hookup ratio, but it's going to help you wrench those fish out of that thick stuff that they live in.
I actually got that tip from G a couple years ago, using that bait down here in Florida on that heavy Flippin hook. If y'all watch my Kissimmee day one, that Flippin hook with that big boot tail paddle tail is how I caught my big kicker. So it definitely works, and it was kind of stressful because that fish buried in the Kissimmee grass, but with that setup, and I believe 50-pound braid, I was able to get it out to the kayak quickly. So that's a killer down here. All right, guys, so last but not least, down here in Florida, you can't get away with talking about top baits without talking about a Flippin setup. So again, I will usually have for these tournaments 3 to 5 different flipping combinations, different weights, different combos, different color combos, everything. Down here, if you're not flipping, there's a good chance you're missing out on a killer bite. So specifically, I want to talk about my bait and a little modification I do to these. I like adding these punch skirts this time of year. It gives the bait a really lifelike look, a larger profile, and I feel like these Florida fish can't handle that. So I've got the Berkley Pit Boss. I'm using either a 3, 4, or 5/0 Flippin hook. I truly feel like learning how to do the snell knot is going to help you increase your hookup ratio big time. And typically I'm fishing this on straight braid. Right now I have a pretty long fluorocarbon leader, but I'm kind of experimenting with that. I think more times than not, what are your thoughts on that, G? Straight braid down here is gonna be fine.
Straight braid.
Straight, yeah, he's always straight braid. I don't know, those Gin Clear waters, sometimes I like to put a little bit of a leader on this, but I hate the leader knots too. I'm just experimenting, but specifically with that punch skirt, you guys, I think it gives the bait just a larger profile, a different look, and like I said, I've got at least 3 to 5 different flipping setups rigged up on my kayak. You need to experiment with that down in Florida, whether you're flipping heavy grass, whether you're flipping reeds, hyacinth, you name it, you gotta have it. So that kind of runs through our top baits. Honestly, you could take all 6 of these, rig these baits up, and go to any lake down here and probably catch them up pretty dang good.
I agree.
G and I are going to have some really fun content coming for you guys this next week. We've got about, I think, 8 or 9 days before we're officially allowed to practice for the Harris Chain Tournament. So stay tuned for some awesome stuff coming. If you guys have any questions about any of the stuff that we just did, please drop them in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to y'all as soon as I can. If you like the bait suggestion videos, we might try to do that once a month, but let me know in the comments. Again, always appreciate you guys. Tight lines out there, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep. Oh yeah. That's
Looks
good.
incredible.